Strip kiosks hacked. Basically, hackers were going up and down the strip, just owning wildly, including Las Vegas Airport, completely hacked. I released iKAT version 2 about mid this year, and I found that at Defcon 17, the traffic grew by 480%. I actually had a colleague of mine who was speaking at Defcon, and he said he had a little play with iKAT, and he found that all the kiosks still break very, very easily. So yeah, Vegas is still vulnerable. Now, one of the things that I did when I implemented iKAT was I set up this Gmaps overlay that you can see. I basically asked people, hey, if you hack a kiosk using my tool, can you submit it? Can you show me and the rest of the world where you hack kiosks? There's some really interesting trends. Germans like hacking kiosks. Lots and lots of kiosks hacked by Germans. Along with French, quite a few kiosks. Quite a few Asians, quite a few in New Zealand, surprisingly. So how iKAT works. iKAT tries to employ regular client-side technology. Things like ActiveX, Java, ClickOnce, which is a .NET technology, JavaScript, VBScript, etc., etc. Essentially, the concept, or the main idea, is that I make stuff happen on the kiosk. I try and defeat the security by sort of like a restricted environment by making the environment really unrestricted. I make everything pop up and everything appear, so then instantly you can access the real start bar and you can browse the kiosk, pop shell, and you pretty much win. And it provides a reliable escape path from this graphically jailed environment. So I noticed some interesting things when I started researching on kiosk security. I found that Java, ActiveX, and ClickOnce, which is .NET, and WPF actually allow remote websites to execute local processes as long as you agree to a little annoying message box that pops up. So this is by the security by user interaction. Now this actually happens to work really well on kiosks because all of the kiosks seem to trust if you click the button, I'll do what you say. Also, the runtimes and the information or the applications installed on a kiosk can actually be detected using JavaScript. So I wrote some pretty smart little JavaScript that goes through and tells you what's installed on the kiosk, tells you what the kiosk platform is. So you can see this kiosk I visited. It's a Netstop Pro kiosk, and it's got Windows Media Player, .NET, and MSN Messenger installed. I discovered the full potential of Notepad. Most people don't know what Notepad can really do. I found a lot of kiosks let you access Notepad. You know, that dumb little editor that doesn't really do anything. If you can access Notepad, you can spawn processes using common dialogues. And you can also use Notepad as a web browser. Check this out. So here I have Notepad. If I go File, Open, and then I browse to Windows System 32, and I type star.exe, and then I find CMD, and I right-click it, I'll open it, and it'll run. Okay, most of us know this trick. So if we get Notepad, we can get cmd.exe. But check out this. If I do file open http://, and then this long URL, Notepad's a web browser. Notepad will actually download that content for me locally. If I go File, Save, I can actually use Notepad to upload content somewhere else. This is using WebDAV and the iNet HTTP libraries. So one of the first things I started doing was weaponizing all of my tools into UTF-7, i.e. ASCII safe versions. So you can use Notepad to download VBScript, I've seen in this text file, which will recreate cmd.exe and run it. Basically, it's a convoluted way of saying you can use Notepad to spawn cmd.exe from remotely. Some kiosks actually let you download certain files. You might find some kiosks say, you know, like the visitors might want to download a PDF file, or maybe a help file or a HTML file. These are not so malicious files and not like an executable. So I started looking at the files that were permitted and allowed on a kiosk and how I could use those files to then compromise the kiosk itself. First thing I found was Windows Media Playlists, .asx files. Who here knew that Windows Media Playlists or Windows Media can be used as a web browser? No? No? Oh, right. Okay. No one knew that. So as you'll see in this example, I can tell iKAT, hey, give me a whole lot of different file types, and it'll start spawning me different files. It spawns me an ASX file, and it says, hey, do you want to open this web content, web-enabled content? Yes, please, open it. And then it opens Windows Media Player, and now I get iKAT inside Windows Media Player. Now this is really important because the security policy and security environment inside Windows Media Player is very, very different to the kiosk. Its security restrictions are not secured or hardened at all. Basically, we can use Windows Media Player to download files. Just click files and they run. We can download and execute cmd.exe. Very, very easy. I found similar tricks using document files, docx files. You can embed a binary object inside a docx file. So I wrote my own docx that has cmd.exe inside it. So if you can get Word to pop up, you can double-click cmd.exe, which is inside my docx, and then you get a shell. I wrote my own help file. And my help file allows you to browse the file system, spawn processes. It allows you to pretty much take over the kiosk if you can load or download a help file. And all of my tools, I don't know if you saw in that demo before, all my tools support automatic file enumeration. So basically, one click and a whole lot of stuff tries to pop up. I found some very interesting tricks using URI handlers. Do most people know what a URI handler is? Is this a common term? Show of hands, who here knows what a URI handler is? Okay, alright, okay, some people. So, if you click a mail to link, your mail handler will pop up, usually Outlook Express, okay? If you click the hcp:// link, the Windows Help and Support Center will spawn up. This is particularly useful on a kiosk. Remember, a kiosk tries to stop you from doing things by restricting your functionality. So if we can make all these apps spawn, we can use those apps to pop shells. The Help and Support Center in particular, all you do is search Help and Support for using command prompt. And it provides you a little link on how you can open and spawn command prompt. And then you get shell. If you can type in shell:/Windows or shell:/Windows in your URI bar, you can get Internet or Explorer to pop up and browse Windows. If you type in shell:::, and then there's GUID here, you can actually call an object by its GUID reference. So this allows you to spawn the control panel inside Internet Explorer. So if a kiosk doesn't block shell URIs, you got the control panel. I mean, you pretty much win from the control panel. Now, emo kiosking. This is a term I coined when I found that it's much, much easier, rather than hacking the kiosk, to just crash the bugger. If you can crash it, the kiosk freaks out. You get a little box that says, "Hey, Windows discovered an unhandled exception," and then the whole kiosk closes. And then what are you left with behind? Windows or Linux or your real operating system. It's gone. So who here has ever crashed a browser? Who's ever, with like a PDF file or a help file? Right. So it's really, really easy. I found a lot of ways to crash browsers and crash kiosks. I spent quite a bit of time fuzzing the SWF file format, and I found vulnerabilities in the A2VM, mostly null pointer dereferences, but I found ways of crashing, reliably crashing, the parent process. As you'll see in some of my demos, it's the fastest way to get to the raw operating system and get everything that you want. And the really shocking thing I found was that most kiosks don't actually monitor unhandled exceptions. So they don't detect that it's crashed, nothing happens, and you're just left with Windows, which is pretty pathetic. Okay, sorry. Right, okay, my video's gone over the top of my text. But I started researching ways that I could spawn shells. I thought to myself, how many different ways can you pop a shell on Windows? Anyone like to take a guess of how many different ways you can pop shell? Pop cmd.exe. Go on, someone shout a number. 30? Less. Okay, it's actually 17. I found 17 different ways to pop cmd.exe. This was pretty cool because most kiosks, with their blacklist mentality, try to block about 10 of those ways. And as you see in this particular kiosk, which is Netstop Kiosk, they blocked 15 different ways of popping shell. However, I still got 3 shells that popped up because my tools, tried all 17 different ways. So you can see that kiosks really don't work. You can see the trend here. That this blacklist approach just doesn't work. Now, I was doing a job for a company in New Zealand, and it was a kiosk review. And the company specifically told me, "Paul, I've heard you can hack kiosks. I heard that you're pretty good at hacking kiosks. You can't hack my kiosk." And the first thing I said was like, "Oh yeah, really?" And he said, "You can't hack it because it doesn't have a keyboard. How are you going to browse to your iKAT website and pop shell when you don't have a keyboard?" And I kind of thought, "Oh, that's actually a good point. How do I do that?"